Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Our largest single-theme land expansion ever.
Now we want you to share with us our latest and greatest dream.
Matterhorn Matt presents Matterhorn Mondays. Welcome, everybody, to episode 97. Definitely didn't have to look to find what episode it was. To episode 97 of Matterhorn Mondays, coming to you live from the Outpost. I'm your host, Matterhorn Matt.
And I'm Alex the Historian.
And today on the Outpost, we are joined by none other than Mr. OrangeGrove55. Why don't you say hello to everybody watching at home?
Hey, everybody. Thank you for having me, Matt. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. No problem at all. And, oh my gosh, we got a really great stream planned for you guys today. Really great episode. Got a lot of great topics that we want to discuss. And as you can see, this camera is still pooping its pants currently. I'm still working out the kinks. Hopefully by episode 100, it'll all be worked out. Yeah, episode 97. Three more till, right? Yeah, I don't know why I had to do the math to try and figure that out, but yeah, 3 more episodes till episode 100. And, oh wow, there's a really big rainbow thing. Oh, that's probably the green. There's been a lot of technical difficulties this episode, you guys. My green screen was not working, and for some reason there's a big rainbow video. Oh, it's the lightning. Anyways, yeah, we got a really great stream planned for you guys, as well as all of you guys know. Link is in the description below to the Discord server, the Twitter, as well as my Instagram, as well as Alex's channel and Orange Grove's channel. Well, actually, since we're on the topic of channels and everything, Mr. Orange Grove, why don't you tell the listeners what kind of YouTube videos you make?
All right. Well, basically, I do Disney news and rumors. I mostly focus on Disneyland Resort. That's my home park. Anything in regards to what's happening in terms of news or speculation or rumors. But I also dabble in like Star Wars movie news and animation and things like that. So that's pretty much my channel. And but again, it's really Anaheim focused, as you can tell by the name Orange Grove.
Yeah, I don't know why. For the longest time, I had no idea what your username meant, and then one day it just clicked. Oh, OrangeGrove55. Oh, I get it. Yeah, but anyways, you guys.
Oh, Matt.
Yeah, you guys know me. But anyways, before we get into any of the topics, because like I said, we do have a lot of interesting discussions that I want to get into. We don't have any birthdays this week. If you'd like to be wished a happy birthday live on the podcast, link is in the description down below, ladies and gentlemen, to the Google Doc where you can submit your birthday as well as your name to be wished a happy birthday live on the podcast. And let's see. Before we get into everything, I don't know if any of you guys remember the waiting rooms. We're gonna take our best attempt to bring back the waiting rooms, rename to the stretching rooms. Figured it's more on a Disney theme. So if you guys would like to speak your thoughts on any of the topics at hand that we are discussing, you can join our Discord server. Link is in the description down below, and join the stretching room. Every week, Alex and I will pick a certain number of people from the stretching room to be featured on the show. Rules and more information about how it works are in the description or are in the welcome channel of the Discord server. And as you can see, there's currently nobody waiting in this waiting room, stretching room. So yeah, we're gonna take our best. It's been an interesting run with the stretching rooms. So like I said, we're gonna try and bring them back, and if they work out in any of the future episodes, then we'll keep them. But yeah, so we'll just see how it goes from there. And, oh my gosh, before we get into this week's news from the Peak, I am excited for this because I'm thirsty. It's very hot in my closet. I am currently drinking, as you guys may have guessed, the peach tea Snapple. So let's just go ahead and pop this open and then get into this week's news from the Peak.
We now present to you
News
Cheers, Matt.
from the peak.
Oh yeah, cheers. Okay, yeah. Oh, I guess we should have had Alex try and bring on his Snapple again. Maybe we should make that like a running thing. Alex and I will both have our Snapples. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, cheers to everybody out there. I just tried to put the Snapple cap. I'm all out of sorts today, you guys. For our first bit of news from the peak, I'm very excited about this. The first trailer, or I guess teaser trailer, for the live-action Mulan movie has been revealed, as well as this lovely, lovely poster accompanying it. For once in my life, I'm excited to say that I actually may see this live-action remake. And as many of you guys may know, the film will not include Mushu or any of the musical numbers, which I personally do believe is a good thing, since the film looks to be taking a more serious, grounded, gritty tone to the source material, I guess is what you could say. But Orange Grove, why don't you, we'll start with him first. Why don't you go ahead and give your thoughts on the brand new Mulan trailer that was revealed?
You know, I was really, really surprised, Matt. Like with you, I'm also kind of hesitant about these live action remakes. You know, a lot of them, or 99% of them, seem very unnecessary.
Yeah.
But with Mulan, it was interesting because I think that this live action version of the animated film can offer something different than what the animated film offers. You know, the animated film has a certain tone and a certain vibe to it. And I think this one, like you mentioned, can be a little grittier, can be a little darker in tone. And I think that works for this particular, subject matter. I think that this could be really, really interesting, and it's going to be able to stand alone on its own as its own film, and be different enough from the animated film that warrants its existence. Basically, it's not going to be kind of like The Lion King. That's basically, from what I'm hearing, is basically shot for shot just in CGI. This new Mulan is going to give you, it's Mulan, but it's going to be something that's going to be a slightly different take on what we're used to. And I think that's pretty exciting. It looks really good. Really good. I was surprised.
Yeah. No, yeah, I was very surprised as well. But Mr. Alex, the historian, what are your thoughts on the brand new Mulan trailer?
I have to agree because, this definitely looks like something different than what Disney was doing with these live action remakes. It certainly is a departure from, what has become the tried and true, like, copy and paste into like a different,
hey, wait a minute,
into a different medium, a different form of storytelling. So it certainly looks different than the original Mulan, and that's a good thing, because it's like I said, I don't mind like movie remakes or reboots if they try something different with the story, if they try something different with how the story is presented, like the original Maleficent movie, I believe came out in 2014. I really liked that one a lot because it wasn't just the story of, Sleeping Beauty as it was told, by Walt and his animators. It is something completely different, a different side of the story. So Mulan, I think I'm interested in watching it. I think this might be a reboot that I actually plan on seeing.
Yeah, really well spoken by both of you guys. And, oh gosh, I really didn't want to have to talk about this next topic that we have. This saddens me a great deal. The Descendants star, Cameron Boyce, has passed away at the age of 20 of natural causes. I'm going to go ahead and quote from CNN here. Quote, "The tragic passing was due to a seizure as a result of an ongoing medical condition, which was epilepsy." So I sincerely mean this. Can we get a big F in chat for Mr. Cameron Boyce? He was one of the really standout stars, in my opinion, of the Disney Channel. All the shows that he was in, if you watch, he was in Jessie, I believe. He was really good in that. I wasn't really a fan of the Descendants movies, but like I said, he was really the one standout actor in those movies who really brought a lot of personality, a lot of enthusiasm, and he's a really good dancer too. So yeah, like I said, big F in chat. I think my camera just died. It's gonna be a great stream, you guys. Yeah, like I said, age of 20. That's really almost. He's a year younger than me. That just kind of puts things into perspective for you. Anything can happen. Don't take your lives for granted, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But anyways, for our last, big F in chat, you guys, for real. I was a big fan of this guy, and my sister was as well. We were both really sad. And for our last bit of news from the peak today, very interesting, I guess, is what I would call it. Disney removes the Tomorrowland entrance sign from the Magic Kingdom. Now, I'm sure as many of you guys know, the Magic Kingdom has been going under some strange changes. Yes, I call them strange. This past year, or maybe year and a half, with Disney trying to remove the 90s aesthetic, sort of cog and gear architecture, and opting to paint most of the buildings white, almost resembling the 67 Tomorrowland refurb at Disneyland. And I really do feel like I'm the only one who feels this way. I was a big fan of the way Magic Kingdom's Tomorrowland was set out, the way it was originally designed to be like a spaceport or something like that, housing all these different pavilions where different aliens could show off all the technology that they have. I'm a really big fan of that. Plus, I love the aesthetic, and I really don't know why Disney is trying to scrub away that version of Tomorrowland. I guess we'll see in the future what comes to fruition. But Alex, what are your thoughts on Disney removing the Tomorrowland entrance sign from the Magic Kingdom?
I think it's good. I haven't seen any official concept art on the new sign, but I think people saw on the map that there was a different looking sign. So hopefully what comes out is something that's really aesthetically pleasing. And I have to agree. I think that the original Tomorrowland at Magic Kingdom, and the 67 Tomorrowland at Disneyland, I think compared to what we've had in both parks so far, I prefer those Googie style mid-century modern architecture styles over what we've had so far. Now, if they come up with something that is better than that, I'm kind of partial to the Shanghai Tomorrowland look. So, I would like to see what they can do, but other than that, I would have been happy all my life if they had just kept that architectural style until now, at least.
Yeah. What about you, Mr. Orange Grove?
Yeah, no, I agree. I love that mid-century, that modern, really clean look. I think it's in a way very timeless. So I do really like it. I actually, and this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I actually also kind of like the 90s Tomorrowland that Walt Disney World got. I actually think it's a pretty solid version of the land. I mean, it's much better than what we got at Disneyland in 98, I think. I don't think it's that bad. I really don't. I mean, I still prefer the mid-century look, but I don't think that Walt Disney World's Tomorrowland is in that bad of a shape. I mean, compared to ours. Ours is just really... They've repainted and redressed those poor buildings 1,000 times, and but I really don't mind the 94, I think Magic Kingdom redid their Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
I really don't mind it that much. I think it looks kind of cool actually. But in regards to the new sign, it'll be interesting to see what they get. Now, has it been confirmed that it's getting a new sign, or is this going to be kind of like an Adventureland thing at Disneyland where they take it away and just bring it back slightly different? I mean, has it been confirmed or announced that it's going to be different when it returns? Do we know that for sure yet, or?
Well, I don't know what Matt has heard, but as far as I'm aware, it's kind of like what we got here in Adventureland, where they just take it away and then bring it back slightly different.
I think that's how it is. I haven't heard anything, but like Alex said, there is an image floating around, which I probably should have included here. Apologies for that. Sort of like a screenshot, I think, of the map on the Disney or Walt Disney World app, where it shows like a new sign that is different than the one. So I'm guessing they're eventually going to bring back either the same sign just stripped down or a completely new sign. I don't know. I really like the sign, but yeah, anyways.
Oh, well, the sign that they show on the Magic Kingdom map right now looks like the same basic shape as what was there from 94, except just a little bit cleaner with a bit less dressing on it. It looks just a bit cleaner is the best way I can describe it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, like I said, we'll see. It's been an interesting year for Tomorrowland in the Magic Kingdom. Almost, I'd say, more interesting than our Tomorrowland. The year our Tomorrowland has had. But we'll see what the future holds for the Magic Kingdom's Tomorrowland. And now, we do have a lot, like I said, we have a lot of great discussions that I'm sure are going to unfold in the next couple topics. We're going to be talking about some interesting quote-unquote fallout in response to Disneyland being so empty these past couple weeks. But before we get into that, there is one topic that I'm sure you guys are aware of, and that I really want to discuss on today's show, and that is, I'm sure you guys have seen this video that's been floating around this past week about the fight that broke out in Tomorrowland this past week. Would it be bad if I said that I thought it was funny? Like, I'm one of those people who enjoys, like, seeing those TV shows, like, I guess, like, Tosh.0 or you guys know what I'm talking about, like, just people fighting. That's probably...
Like that true TV ridiculousness kind of stuff.
Yeah, ridiculousness. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff, so don't get mad at me, please, viewers. But yeah, this is a very interesting story that broke out, and the stuff that unfolded after it, we're going to get into. The video posted, which I'm not going to show. I'm sure you guys can find it online somewhere on YouTube. It's in the article. Link will be in the description below to all the articles we're talking about. But the video posted shows what looks like to be a family in an all-out brawl. It could be like just two random families that got mad at each other, but it looks to me like it's some sort of big extended family, maybe on vacation, or you guys know what I mean. Punches were thrown, hair was pulled, and a woman in a scooter ended up on the ground, you guys. It was very intense. And in the video, like I said, which you can find online, a custodial cast member can be seen trying to break up the fight, and a few minutes later we see security guards as well as Disneyland police come in to break up the fight. And a lot of people were questioning how long it took Disney security to get there to try and defuse the situation. That's really the main argument I see being thrown around on the internet currently about this topic. But there is an article, the OC Register of all websites, the OC Register. Security experts say that Disneyland did follow safety protocols in this situation. And I'm going to go ahead and quote from the article, which, like I said, will be linked in the description below. Quote, "It seems like they followed all their emergency procedures and standard operating procedures," said Dowing, a retired deputy chief who worked for the Los Angeles Police Department for 35 years. Quote, "They did exactly what they were supposed to do." So, I don't know if that sets that to rest, but it is a very interesting topic nonetheless to talk about. And I do know Alex has some very passionate, I'm sure, thoughts because he did used to work at Disneyland, and knows may or may not know the inner workings about how Disneyland security works. Because to my knowledge, I don't think the custodial member is allowed to try and physically pull the people off of each other. I could be wrong.
Probably
so
not.
Alex. Yeah, so Alex, why don't you go ahead and explain that to us?
Okay, just to begin, based off of what I know, as a cast member, and then also having worked with many coworkers and friends who either were already in security or who became security, I feel that I at least have a decent grasp of how it works in Disneyland security. And from what I can tell, I had to say, and I think even on my video that I posted on the 7th or 8th of this month, I said that they followed protocol. You know, they did everything that they were supposed to do. Things went, I mean, for all intents and purposes, smoothly. Was it as fast as all of us wish it was? No. But, I mean, everything went according to the plan, you know, and like I was saying before, like a lot of people wonder, like, well, why wasn't security there in the first place? What shouldn't security be walking around Disneyland? And it's like, well, they are, and there was. And, you know, in some of the videos, you can actually see almost from within the first minute of the video, you can see that there was a security cast member standing right there, and she was on her radio, already, you know, calling up for backup. And she was an older lady, and I don't think that her alone, I don't think that she could have broken up the fight. And once again, to answer Matt's question, cast members, especially regular like white shirt, blue pant security, none of them can touch guests. Technically, we're not even allowed to like tap them on the shoulder or anything. So it's like there's only so much you can do besides saying, "Hey, stop that," So, and so that the security cast member had to wait until what I call the boys in blue to get there, because the security cast members that wear the blue shirts, those security cast members usually carry what are called guard cards. I don't know about the rest of the nation, but in California, if you are a actual security guard who can stop people from doing bad things, you must carry a guard card in order to actually touch them and physically stop them from fights and things like that. So as far as I can tell, this whole thing went smoothly according to Disney's contingency plans upon a situation like this. Was it as fast as all of us had wanted? No, but then again, a fight like this hasn't occurred in 8 years. And even then, the last one was not as bad as this one. So,
well, and Alex, I also think that people have, when it comes to Disney, I think people have unrealistic expectations. People assume like the security at Disneyland is going to be like, there's going to be security guards that are going to like, come out of like the manholes and like protect everybody like immediately. Yeah. And, the expectations are just so high when it comes to Disney. And, I think that comes kind of that comes to play here. I think a lot of people were just expecting like within 30 seconds, the Disney snipers are going to take this guy out and it's going to be done, and it just doesn't work like that, and like you mentioned, the cast members followed protocol, right? And that's what they're told to do. They're not supposed to touch, the people that are in the brawl, and for their safety as well as probably legal reasons. You don't want to hurt them and then have them come back and sue the company or what have you. So they're in a tough spot, and I get what's I understand that. I respect that. So yeah, I know it's easy to say 4 or 5 minutes was too long, but like you said, like there's a lot of factors at play here. And I think one of those is just expectations. People just unrealistically think Disney needs to have like this crazy amount of security where they can stop everything at like in like a 15 seconds flat, and it's just not realistic. So, but yeah, I mean, what else can you do? Now I have to ask you, Alex, does Anaheim PD do they do like plain clothes, like undercover stuff in the park all the time, or is that something that they don't do? Like, how does that work? Like, I heard that they do that they're in the park but they're undercover. Is that a real thing, or is that just like a myth?
It's not a myth. Actually, it's actually a relatively new thing. So Anaheim PD, they do have undercover cops in Disneyland Resort. It's not my belief that they are within the parks themselves. I believe that they are in the bag check areas and even downtown Disney. So the more public walking spaces that don't cost money to get into. So that's usually where the undercover cops are. But yeah, those undercover cops are relatively new. Disney has had Anaheim PD in uniform on property since at least 2001, after the September 11th attacks. And so that's what they do. And as a matter of fact, to a lot of people in the comments section right now who are probably wondering, yes, Anaheim PD has several stations on the resort property. I can't tell you where they are because that's just kind of a security issue. But there is at least one per park and at least one per side of downtown Disney. So, and there's plenty of these stations around. So it's like they're easily able to return to the station to get supplies or things like that, or even just to go on break. So it's like, you know that they're within like a 5-minute walk to you. Now, the interesting thing is a lot of people have been wondering, like why, why wasn't Anaheim PD, why LA? Anaheim PD there in this video while, after all the security got there. And the thing is like, so there is a bit of controversy with that question because if Anaheim PD were like right there while this fight was happening, there would be like a huge dramatic thing going on with people getting, like zip tied and, forced to the ground. And, and Disney is fully aware of right now the social issues between the Black community and police departments across the country. I think we're all aware that there's been a lot of issues recently with, with unnecessary force and stuff like that. So Disney is very aware of that. And Disney has this kind of unspoken rule that if it's in the parks, we will handle it first if we can. Mm-hmm. And only when it's absolutely necessary will we bring in the police to, basically carry them away. So in a situation like this was a situation where no weapons were involved. So the guard card holding cast members that are in security, they are able to use physical force to stop these people from brawling. I'd say it's only when an issue of someone bringing a weapon to a fight would be where Disney would say, all right, police, come on in and handle the situation. Yeah. So yeah, it's all about like the way people take it, because imagine what would have happened if this family were to go online afterwards and say, oh, this was, the way that they stopped us from fighting was, was unfair and unjust, and, extra force was taken, stuff like that. So it's like almost everyone in these different groups that were involved in stopping this fight have to be very careful with how they handle it.
That's a great point, Alex. Like with the police departments and the Black community, and how the perception is right now. And yeah, I mean, you could have a real major problem if they would have came in and started zip tying people up, and it would have been even a worse public relations disaster than it already has been, and it could have led to who knows what, lawsuits and all kinds of stuff. So they're in a tough spot. It's not easy. It's not an easy it's not an easy issue to resolve. There's no like one thing that's going to fix this. They have to really take each case at a case-by-case basis and kind of see how to approach it. Because, there's a lot of legal ramifications if they go at it the wrong way,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Nate pointed out in the chat, let's give credit to the person who filmed it. It's well shot, plus it's in landscape mode, unlike most fight videos. Bravo. I guess that's one thing to take of note from this video. If you don't pay attention to anything else, it was a very cinematically filmed video. So props to whoever did film the video.
Yes.
Again, not going to show it on stream, but you guys can probably find it online somewhere. And yeah, like I said, very interesting topic that I'm sure you don't see every day at Disneyland. I think Alex said it's been 8 years since something like this has happened.
Yeah, 2011, something happened in DCA. I was actually working that day in guest relations at DCA. And I remember I was helping a guest find the restrooms, because back then there was like construction walls everywhere. Mm-hmm. And next thing I know, I'm like, security standing next to us. He's just standing around, just looking at stuff. And over all of our radios, I had a radio too. We had an all call for an emergency over by Tower of Terror, and security just bolted. You can see them from all over the park, just towards Tower of Terror. And there there was a drunk man who was physically like attacking a security cast member. The security cast member was an older man. I don't think he was physically prepared for a fight like this. I wouldn't think so. And so really this security cast member, all he could do was take out his pepper spray, and he was pepper spraying the guy like crazy, but the guy kept attacking him. And so it became an issue where like other like guests and tourists had to get involved and stop this guy.
Oh my
and
God.
So and then security, the guard card holding security, finally showed up and was able to stop everything. And it's kind of funny because the reaction afterwards was the same thing that's happening right now. Everyone was saying, oh, this took too long, you know, stuff is going on, Disney needs to boost security. And it's like that's the funny thing, is like they've never stopped. Disney security has continued to increase its footprint on the park like crazy. I mean, just a couple months ago, Matt, I was showing you pictures of how they expanded the security booths by the park. And, you know, metal detectors are a very recent thing at the parks. You know, I believe they've only been around for like a year or two, you know, so it's like, you know,
and I've noticed a lot more of those, like the bomb sniffing dogs when I go now. I've noticed a lot more of those, you know, like maybe 10 years ago, I never saw that ever. And now I see it on a regular basis, you know, it's all the time.
Yeah, I remember just like a couple years ago, there was like one bomb sniffing dog just walking around. Now, when I go to Disneyland, I can count like 4 or sometimes 5 before I get to security check. So
Wow.
Disney security has never been satisfied with the status quo. I want everyone here to know that. Like, Disney security has never just said, that's enough. We got enough. No, they've always been growing and continuing. So, you know, I don't want people to like walk away from this and think like, oh, geez, you know, like, what if they never improve? It's like they're always improving.
Well, and it comes to the expectations thing I was mentioning earlier. Like if they respond in a minute, then people are going to jump online and say, well, how come it wasn't 30 seconds? You know, there's always going to be, people just always have that thing, like, you know, where Disney should just fix it like immediately, and it's just not realistic. And these things are there's a lot of working pieces, like we mentioned earlier, with legality issues and things like that they have to be very careful about. And it's not so easy just to go in there, you know, and just tackle somebody. You know, they have to really be careful about how they approach these things. So
yeah. Well, like I said, very interesting topic. If you guys would like to read more, like I said, link will be in the description to the article that we're referring to. Not sure if you're going to be able to read it, though, because it is the OC Register. You might have to sign up to view it. Alex was telling me earlier how he couldn't view the article. I had to transcribe it for him. So big shout out to the OC Register, like always. Anyways, like I said, we do have a lot of other great topics that we're going to get into. But first, let's have a quick break to take some words from our sponsors of the show. If you guys are wondering where you can find even more family-friendly live streams, just like this one, head on over to theliveplace.com. The Live Place is your headquarters for great family-friendly live streams. They cover anything from Disney to other vacation spots, various variety shows, and have some amazing streamers like Resort TV 1 and myself. Also, be sure to check out puckermint.com, where you can find amazing pins and stickers. Puckermint is based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, just a few hours from where I live, and since I'm a big believer in supporting local artists, we decided to partner up. Be sure to use the coupon code down below when you make your next order. Again, that's puckermint.com and puckermint on Instagram. All right, now I'm sure you guys are very excited for this next topic that we have. I promised it in the beginning, and I'm sure you guys have seen a lot about it on Twitter and everything. So, before we talk about the fallout, quote-unquote fallout that Galaxy's Edge's effect has had on the park. We do have some interesting news about the opening day of Rise of the Resistance at Disneyland and Hollywood Studios. Now, Disney did reveal the opening dates for Rise of the Resistance in Disneyland and Hollywood Studios. Quote-unquote opening dates. Rise of the Resistance will open December 5th in Hollywood Studios and January 15th in Disneyland. Now, that's a long ways from what we were promised a few months ago. I'm sure you guys remember. I'm going to go ahead and quote from the Disney Parks blog here. Quote, we're opening Star Wars Rise of the Resistance December 5th at Walt Disney World. If this date sounds familiar, many of our fans will recognize it as Walt Disney's birthday. What better way to honor the ultimate storyteller than by including the most immersive and advanced attraction ever imagined at a Disney park? That's like a big wink to the people reading this, and I'm sure we could talk a long time about that specific sentence, but I'm going to go ahead and continue on for now. Let's see. Quote, when it opens, Star Wars Rise of the Resistance will blur the lines between fantasy and reality, and will put guests in the middle of a climactic battle between the First Order and the Resistance. Guests will be recruited to join Rey and General Organa, I don't know if that's pronounced right, in a secret base. Along the way, they will be captured by a First Order Star Destroyer. With the help of some heroes of the Resistance, they break out and must escape the Star Destroyer, protect the secret base, and stay one step ahead of Kylo Ren. I don't know what just happened there.
I think you got attacked by Kylo Ren.
I think that's what it felt like. That's exactly what it felt like. Oh gosh. Anyways, so I'd like to dedicate just a few minutes of that first quote that I spoke from the Disney Parks blog about opening Rise of the Resistance on Walt Disney's birthday in Hollywood Studios. Now, I don't know how they came across to decide to open it on that date. I don't know. I guess it's worth mentioning that I personally believe that these dates, especially the Disneyland date, these dates are not necessarily set in stone for the ride to open. I believe if they open it in time for December 5th or January 15th, January 15th, then I'm sure everybody in the organization will be happy. And if it opens earlier, then that's even better. But I do believe that there is a chance that at least one of these rides may or may not miss the deadline. I mean, Disney did set out a pretty far deadline, January 15th. That's I'm not going to take the time to count on my fingers. That's a long time away from now, which I'm sure Disney is putting a lot of pressure on the Imagineers to get this ride working in time. So yeah, it is my personal belief that, especially with the Disneyland date, that the ride may or may not miss the opening. And I'd just like to collectively get both of your guys' thoughts on that, because as we've been covering on the show, Rise of the Resistance has had many hiccups in its construction and its testing phases. So let's start with Mr. Orange Grove.
Well, the Parks fan, the Star Wars fan in me, I want this thing to open tomorrow. Obviously, the delay, it's excruciating to wait till January. But with that said, I also understand why they're doing it the way they're doing it. If it's not ready for prime time, then don't open the ride. Universal Orlando is having problems with their Hagrid ride, and it's causing all kinds of issues. So it's better, in my opinion, to just delay the opening and get it right than to try to rush and push something out that just isn't ready yet. So if it's not ready yet, that's the best option is to just delay it and just open it when it is ready. It is kind of interesting though how our land is all done. It's open, it's done, and Florida is there. It's still a construction site basically, but Florida's is going to open up sooner than ours. Yeah. So I guess Florida is I guess they caught whatever glitch or issue they had with this attraction. They caught it early enough in Florida where they can fix it in the construction process. and Disneyland, they might have to go in there and undo things, which might be delaying it a little bit, which is disappointing. But it's a bummer. It's a bummer. But you know what? I think it'll be worth it. From everything I've heard, it sounds like it's going to be an incredible attraction. So I'm really hoping. And you know what, Matt? You mentioned a good point about how you think that they might open sooner. I think that there's a good chance of that too. I mean, I think they're just trying to give themselves enough room, like just in case. But yeah, probably before. And they're probably going to want to get it open before Rise of Skywalker comes out in theaters because they care about that synergy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Mr. Alex, the historian, what are your thoughts? Well, before Alex gets into this, I'd like to point out that Alex did predict that the Disneyland attraction would be pushed back into early next year. So big kudos to Alex for predicting that. Now you can continue. Sorry.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Was I'm the kind of person to say I told you so, but yeah, it's just funny. I didn't really know. I couldn't point out why I thought that it would open next year. I just after years of being amongst Disney and knowing how things work, I kind of knew that it wasn't going to be this year. So I don't know. So I can't take too much credit because it's not like I really knew why. I just anyway. The point is that so from what my insider has told me, is that the Rise of the Resistance was pretty much ready to open, but the problem was the ride vehicles themselves, which operate off of Wi-Fi, which is a little bit different than what trackless rides usually operate off of, which is RFID embedded in the track. And they couldn't keep the ride vehicles constantly connected to the Wi-Fi. And let me add that they did build like a ton of like Wi-Fi transmitters and cell phone towers in Galaxy's Edge. I mean, you go to Docking Bay 7, the restaurant, right outside, right in view, are a bunch of these cell phone transmitting pads. I don't know what they're called, but yeah. And they're just disguised to look like part of the land, and it really works. But the point is that it's not an issue of Disneyland not having good reception because they built the cell phone towers right there in the land. The issue is just that there's a lot of those ride vehicles, and a lot of them are communicating all at once on this giant Wi-Fi database. It's gonna be flawed, like it's like when you're at home and you've got everybody using Wi-Fi, and it's like the Wi-Fi just crashes. So the funny thing was that there was something that even my insider didn't know. And they were saying, oh, no, it's going to open later this year. They've got almost everything under control. And I'm like, no. If there's anything I've learned from Ian Malcolm from Jurassic Park, it's that it's just not over yet. So, what I have heard recently is that Disney has decided to, for now, forego the whole Wi-Fi system that controls the ride vehicles and install the RFID system that is tried and true. So they're going through the ride path and digging up some of the concrete to install these little RFID pucks in the ground, which will communicate with the ride vehicles. The ride vehicles are currently, they've been removed from the property and taken to another property where they're being retrofitted with RFID scanners on the bottom. And lastly, just to cover my bases, this could all be just a rumor and not true, so just take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I also heard that they were ripping up the ground, the path to take out these transmitters and put in the new stuff that Alex was talking about. So it is very, very, very interesting. I'm excited to see where the future of this attraction goes. But speaking of Rise of the Resistance, there was a leaked image that I'd like to showcase to you guys of a scene inside the attraction. I believe this was posted to the Disneyland subreddit. Now, let's see. This is that image that I'm speaking of. I don't know if I'm allowed to show this. If this gets copyrighted for some reason, then you guys will know what happens. Disney is Mickey Mouse is on his way right now to choke me to death. But yeah, this is supposedly a scene inside the attraction during the massive hangar scene with the stormtroopers, and in the background you can see the 100-foot screen that is supposed to be looking out of the, what is it, a Star Destroyer that they're in, into space. And here's a sort of side-by-side comparison of the concept art and the image that was leaked. So very interesting stuff.
Gosh, that is so eerie.
Yeah, it really
Isn't that scary? Imagine if if this was your dream, you know? It's like, you're like in your dream, you're like standing amongst these things. It's like, ooh.
Yeah.
You know, this ride reminds me so much of basically Indiana Jones Adventure, but Star Wars. You know, it's like just like high budget, crazy scale, but it's Star Wars. You know, I just, it looks incredible. Everything I've seen of this ride looks amazing. I mean, I think it's going to blow our minds. I really do.
Yeah, I do as well. And I really hope that I'm not let down. I hope we're all not let down because Disney's been teasing us for so long with this gosh darn attraction. But anyways, we do have someone in the waiting room who would like to give his thoughts on this topic. And just bear with, I just want to say, we've sort of changed up the way that we record Matterhorn Mondays. Before we set up both of Alex and our webcams on the screen, we used to just jump into one of the voice channels that we have on our Discord server and just record there. But since we decided to showcase Alex's camera on the stream as well as mine, we now record Matterhorn Mondays in a group call. So we can't necessarily all just leave the group call, go into the waiting room to have hear this person's thoughts. So I don't know if this is going to work or not. I've done some tests, but I've retrofitted a way to try and get us to be able to hear what our special guest from the waiting room is going to be saying, while also having him hear what we're saying. And I'd just like to point out, this is a work in progress, getting ready for episode 100 of Matterhorn Mondays. It will be fixed by no doubt within the next coming episodes up until episode 100. And so I'd just like to point out to those you listening at home and to you guys in the call, if you hear an echo, if you hear yourself speaking, I apologize. It is just part of what has to be done, at least for now. So we're going to go ahead and bring in, let's see, Mr. Crazy 8 Wizard. And I do believe he can hear me, and I do believe that we will be able to hear him, I hope. His thing is lighting up, but I cannot hear what he's saying. Oh my gosh.
Well, that's because I haven't said anything yet.
Him permission. I don't think I've given him permission to speak in the channel. So, like I said, you guys, this is a work in progress. Let's see. How do I make it so he can talk? How do I...
Should I say something just so you can tell?
There we go. Let's try that. Okay,
Matt, do you know that he's talking?
I can see his thing light. Wait, can you...
Yeah, we hear him.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear him.
Okay, yeah, I forgot. Okay, like I said, work in progress. Like I said, I had my desktop audio muted, so apologies.
Oh, jeez.
But anyways, Mr. Crazy 8 Wizard here from the waiting room would like to showcase some of his thoughts on the recent Galaxy's Edge unfolding. So why don't you take it away?
So yeah, I think Rise of the Resistance is going to be absolutely incredible. And I'm very excited to see what it's going to be like, but there are some things I've noticed here and there that are a little strange and things that you can't really quite control. The description says it's breaking the line between... though that echo is disorienting. It breaks the line between reality and fiction. And that's gotten me thinking about Hollywood studios, because originally it was like, here's the movies, and you get to watch them made. And then the next one, it's like, this is what the movies are like, but you're still not in the movies. And now they're basically saying, oh yes, the movies are real, you are in them now.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that's weird. I think it works better in Disneyland, and I don't even know how they did it, but the way that it sort of transitions from Frontierland into Black Spire Outpost is clever. It's very clever.
You bring up a great point about Disney's Hollywood Studios, where it's shifting from the magic of movie making to
the
experiencing the environments in your favorite movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I think eventually they're going to sadly, they're going to completely remove all the movie making behind the scenes stuff. And it's really going to be focused on, experiencing Annie's backyard, experiencing Star Wars universe, experiencing whatever other IP land, But I think that's pretty much the direction they're going in. I think the whole movie making processing is going to be completely foregone going forward.
Well, that's what's interesting is that this was kind of I don't know, like foreshadowed in the past, because you know what partially had to close for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge to open was the backlot tour.
Mm-hmm.
So the defining feature of Disney's Hollywood Studios is that it was supposed to be a ripoff of Universal Studios in the fact that, hey, we make movies here. This is an actual functioning set. But the studio backlot tour kind of ironically messed with that, and because Catastrophe Canyon was just too loud, they didn't actually do much with that.
Mm-hmm.
So that part of the park kind of doomed the concept from the very beginning. And that really makes you wonder is... way back in 1988 or 89, Michael Eisner wanted a film and television pavilion at Epcot between not Universe of Energy, Journey into Imagination and The Land. And it was supposed to be a trip into the movies. It was basically the backlot tour, but one pavilion. But Michael Eisner liked the idea so much that they made a full park out of it. But now that idea is starting to diminish a little more as they say, oh, hey, this is for where the movies go.
Mm-hmm.
It's
kind of weird.
And I agree with you, too. I think it actually fits better in Disneyland. I mean, Star Wars is a unique franchise in that it's a space or galactic fairy tale, princesses and cowboys.
Well, also, another interesting thing is the fact that it's right next to Frontierland and Fantasyland. Because the original Star Wars A New Hope is structured as a Western.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a sci-fi fantasy.
It's perfect for the park,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like... Alex, do you have anything you'd like to rebuttal to that?
No. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I feel like that whole discussion about Hollywood Studios, I feel like in the past we've touched on that briefly, but that is something that I do want to talk about, the death of Hollywood Studios, the death of the studio theme park. Maybe we can sort of dedicate an entire segment to that in a future episode once Galaxy's Edge finally opens in Hollywood Studios, because that is something that I'm really interested in discussing with everybody here. But anyways, Mr.
I have another
Crazy
thing to say about Rise of the Resistance, though.
Okay.
I am a sucker for attractions that have long durations. I know people love to hate on Universe of Energy because it's 45 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if it's such an immersive attraction and it plops you right in the middle of this world, that it should be as long as possible. You should get your wait time's worth out of that.
Right.
Because one of my favorite rides, purely because of what you get to see in the length, is Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
I don't know the duration of that one, but it's long. There's a lot to see. There's a lot to do. It immerses you, and when you get off, you're like, wow, that was incredible. I want to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really think it's fun to find an attraction that it has a longer wait time, because from what I've heard, it's supposed to be around like 15 to 25 minutes in length. So you are going to get your wait time's worth, but just be prepared to realize that it's a long one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 15 to 20 minutes I think is what we talked about a few episodes ago as well. But anyways, thank you Mr. Crazy 8 Wizard for joining us today. Straight from the stretching room, you guys, if you would like to be featured on this episode of Matterhorn Mondays or any other future episodes, like I said, join our Discord server. And again, thank you, Mr. Crazy 8 Wizard.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well that was Well, that went way better than I thought it was going to go, to be completely honest. I thought we were going to have to scrap the whole thing, but glad that could work out. And anyways, moving on to our final topic for today, which is something I promised you guys at the very beginning. Let's see. The fallout, quote-unquote fallout, of Disneyland that Galaxy's Edge has created. Now, this is very interesting to me because this, like we said a few episodes ago, this is the exact opposite of what we thought would be happening once Galaxy's Edge opens. So I guess to paraphrase this whole segment here, Disney is implementing many cutbacks in the park in these coming months, as well as hiring freezes. All these articles that we're referring to will be in the description down below, as always. I'm going to go ahead and quote from this article from Mice Chat. Let's see. Freeze Disneyland implements hiring. That's just the link. That's not the actual title of the article. Anyways, quote, things are getting serious at Disneyland where a hiring freeze and budget cuts have just been implemented in response to low summer attendance. All departments have been asked to cut labor hours and make other cuts as necessary. The parks have staffed up for the expected huge crowds for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and when these crowds didn't appear, Disney unblocked cast member admissions and launched discounted pass holder tickets. While these admissions do seem to be successful, it isn't enough to make up for the soft hotel room bookings and short attraction waits. Now, we do have a lot more on this topic, but before we move forward, Alex, what are your thoughts on Disney implementing hiring freezes as well as budget cuts all around the park in response to the low attendance for the park?
Well, first of all, there's an echo still going on.
Oh, yeah. Okay. There we go. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Hopefully,
Oh,
yeah.
man. I would have, my own voice talking back to me would have drove me crazy. That's why I can't have a twin. I would have killed them. So these hiring freezes and stuff, it's sad for me because, you know, all of us Disney fans, when we go to Disneyland, we don't want these crowds. We don't want to wait 45 minutes to go on Peter Pan. Of course we want to go on a ride within a 5 to 15 minute wait. But then that affects us in a different way because then Disney has to do all these budget cuts and hiring freezes, and the budget cuts directly affect us fans because certain things like food options at restaurants or even like the operating hours of certain rides, shows, or attractions gets affected. And so the thing is like, in order for Disneyland to operate 100% the way that we want it to, it has to be busy and packed. And so in order for them to make a decent amount of money from it, you know, and so the thing is like, you know, I feel bad about these hiring freezes because Disney is a great place to generate jobs for the Orange County and LA area. Yeah. As well as the fact that it's also part of our biggest economy here in Southern California. So it's like when stuff doesn't go well at Disneyland, it affects the rest of LA and Orange County. Kind of like a pressure wave where the closest area of Disneyland is affected the most, but as it goes out, it slowly dissipates. But yeah, so anyway, a lot of people would think that this means that Galaxy's Edge is a failure. And to that, I would have to say, financially speaking, its breakout opening season was a flop. But that doesn't mean the land is overall a failure. It's still getting, you know, very good feedback from the guests and, you know, and stuff like that. And granted, it probably won't meet the same feedback that Cars Land got, which was 100%, which just broke the record for feedback. But you know, it is really popular. People do love it. It's just that everyone's been so scared to come to the resort because we've been talking for years about how it's going to be Armageddon this summer. So it's like everyone booked their vacations for later on in the future, you know? And so it's like, we probably won't see the full success of Galaxy's Edge until next summer, you know? Yeah.
You know, I think there's a couple things going on here, but the two main things that I think are keeping people away is, number one, they got a little more aggressive with the blockouts. You know, they blocked out the cast members for a while, and also with the I think deluxe passes are blocked out till like end of August or something. So that's a big part of it, because Disneyland really does depend on that annual pass holder traffic. So they really cut back on that local traffic by doing the annual pass blockouts. And then on top of that, they're opening the same exact land in Florida next month. So if you live east of the Mississippi, you have no reason to spend the money to fly all the way to here to California to visit Galaxy's Edge when it's going to be opening next month closer to you. So there's really no point in anyone flying down here. Whereas like Cars Land or even Pandora, you had reason to go there because you're not going to find another Cars Land. You're not going to find another Pandora. You had to go to those locations. Galaxy's Edge, you have an option not to do that. You can just wait it out. And I think that's a big aspect of it. So they cut the local traffic with the pass holders. They even cut the out-of-state travelers by building the one in Florida. And on top of that, their signature attraction, Rise of the Resistance, isn't open yet. So it's not, I mean, it's not too surprising that it's dead. I mean, this is kind of what happens when all those factors come into play, you know?
Yeah, and that is an interesting point that I don't think we've brought up here on the show, is the fact that, like you said, if you're living on the east side, I think the east side, whatever, you guys know what I'm talking about. If you're living on the east side of the country, you don't have to visit East Coast. Yeah, thank you. I'm not that good with directions.
Yeah, guys, I've after, you know, these couple of years, I've just learned to become Matt's translator.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because it's actually true. But anyways, East, I have to do like the acronym. I don't have, anyways, the East Coast. If you're living on the East Coast, you have no reason to visit Disneyland's Galaxy's Edge because, yeah, they're building the same exact thing in Florida that's opening next month. And that's not, I don't think that's anything we've really touched on here on the show when we've been talking about Galaxy's Edge. Why has it been so the parks have been so dead these past couple weeks, but I do feel like that does play a big factor in as well. And if you guys thought that what we just talked about was bad, Disney's making even more budget cuts, you guys. Someone said in the chat, sounds like 2001 all over again. Oh my gosh, I sure hope not. But anyways, let's see what we still have to talk about. Let's see. Guests should expect to see entertainment, custodial, and non-essential labor cuts immediately at the resort. Among these are the shuttering of the Newsboys show at the on Buena Vista Street, as well as scaling back the Lion King show, both at DCA. So if you guys, I'm a big fan of the Newsboys, the show that they do on Buena Vista Street, so that's really sad to see. But this is also something that I am excited to hear Alex's thoughts on, because I know he was such a big fan. I think you were such a big fan of this breakfast. Disney, the Bright Sun's morning breakfast plate is not available anymore, Monday through Thursday at Docking Bay 7, Food and Cargo. Now, I do remember seeing Alex try this, and now that I think about it, I think he didn't like it that much, but yeah, so this breakfast will only be served, it looks like, on the weekend times, including Friday. No more weekday breakfast at Docking Bay 7 Food and Cargo, but Alex, what are your thoughts on removing this amazing breakfast plate from the parks during the weekdays?
You know, I must fail at life because, you know, I keep setting myself up for failure. I get my hopes up with finding a new breakfast item that I can finally rely on.
Okay, yeah.
But then every time it gets removed from the menu, and then I have to tell myself all over again, well, Alex, you should have known. Why didn't you know? And so at this point, I've just done it so many times where I'm like, maybe I should just not eat breakfast at Disneyland anymore. Everywhere I go, like I used to, breakfast is my favorite time of day. If someone were to say, Alex, you will not be able to eat food for the entire day except for one meal at what time of the day, I'd say breakfast. And so, everywhere I go, whether it being, Red Rose Tavern, Tomorrowland Terrace, Carnation Cafe, all that. There was other breakfast places, Riverbell Terrace. Oh my gosh. And usually, like, I can find something on every menu that I like, usually. And not anymore. And so it's like, every time I go to a place at Disneyland and I find a good breakfast item, it's like they either just remove all the parts of it that I love, or they completely remove it from the menu. And when they got rid of the original Riverbell Terrace breakfast, and I had to make do with that, they moved it to Rancho. Then they got rid of the Rancho breakfast, and I had to go to Red Rose. And then Red Rose finally had pancakes, which is something I love, and they've had it for a while, and it was my tradition to have a pancake breakfast at Disneyland all the way back since Riverbell Terrace. And then they got rid of the pancakes, and then they replaced it with this really horrible French toast. It was a culinary sin, and I couldn't eat it. And then Galaxy's Edge opened, and there was this giant ray of light at the end of the tunnel, and it was the Bright Sun's breakfast. And I was like, here it is, a thing that will stay. This is a new land. It'll be a decade before they start, making cuts that will destroy this place. And it's like within the first 2 months, the breakfast is gone. And I mean, maybe not completely, but it will be. And, because why the breakfast is going to be gone? Because I'm going to start showing up on the weekends to get it. That's why they're going to remove it. So that's just my little 2 cents. So right now, my breakfast item is the breakfast Ronto wrap. But I am currently making preparations to say goodbye to it. So
yeah. Oh my god.
I'm actually not a breakfast person, but the only food that I've actually had so far at Galaxy's Edge, I've only gone twice. And the only food that I had was that, I think it's called the lava roll. It's like basically like a cinnamon roll. And it was okay, but it was pretty dry. I wasn't too much of a fan of it, but that's the only thing that I had there. I haven't eaten anything else. I heard the Ronto wraps were pretty good though, but yeah, I got to try more stuff next time I get out there.
Yeah. It's the Bright Sun's breakfast, I'll have to admit, is not the best Disney breakfast I've ever had. I mean, that would go to Red Rose Tavern, but this one. So I liked this one because of the purple potato hash. I thought that was really good with the little Japanese mushrooms and the bell peppers and onions and stuff. It was really good. The only thing I didn't really like about it was that roll. They have a miniature version of the lava roll.
Yeah,
I have to agree, it was really dry and just didn't really. Yeah, and the egg was, there's supposed to be a 3 or 4 cheese egg. I didn't taste any of the cheese, and it was so bland. And I cut the footage because I was filming a vlog while I did it. I cut the footage and I put salt. I kid you not, it defied physics and chemistry. It absorbed the salt and then turned it into antimatter, and it was gone. There was no flavor. It was just gone. It was done.
That's horrible.
Oh my gosh.
I think we all can agree though that the Tomorrowland Terrace has the worst food ever.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh God, no. Oh man. I went there after they got rid of Red Rose Tavern breakfast. I was like looking through the map. I'm like, I gotta find something new. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot Tomorrowland Terrace serves breakfast. So I went there and I came back sick. And I'm like, never again.
What did you have? What did you have out of curiosity?
Some kind of breakfast sandwich where it was like ham and cheese and egg, and it was just tasted like a foot. I just, no, just.
You know, it's funny,
horrible.
just speaking on the same context of breakfast in the parks, I remember very vividly when I was a little kid going to the Tomorrowland Terrace and eating breakfast. Almost every day we went to Disneyland, like during our vacation. And I remember I used to love the French toast sticks that they had. And they were the kind of French toast sticks that you'd have maybe at like Sonic or like Burger King. Do you guys know like the thin, long, crunchy type of French toast? And then I remember one year we went back to Disneyland and my mom was like, "All right, we're gonna get your French toast sticks, your favorite breakfast." And then they changed them to like where it's like a loaf of bread with like white powder on it, and just like speaking on the same the context of like traumatic events when it comes to breakfast. I was devastated when they removed those original French toast sticks. But anyways, it is really funny to see because Alex puts out these vlogs every week, and almost every week you see him going to different restaurants at Disneyland, eating the breakfast, and then it's almost like. Yeah, it's like Alex is just like this bad luck charm. Just the other week, he put out the video eating this breakfast. And
I'm sorry, everybody. I'm gonna stop eating at Disneyland so that way you can have your food.
What you got to do, Alex, is you got to go to the places you hate.
Yeah.
So they remove the food you hate. Don't mention what you like, and then you can kind of,
I think the trick is I gotta give the bad food a good review.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh gosh. I even went, even after I had that horrible foot sandwich at Tomorrowland Terrace, I went to Cars Land because I remember I was part of the opening crew for Cars Land. And I remember, oh yeah, they had this amazing French toast thing. Brick. It was a brick of French toast. And I'm like, that was really good. It had bananas and caramel. So I'm like, I'm going to go there. And I remember I was filming a vlog that day and I went there with my friend Freddie and I order it. And I'm like, this is going to be so good. All I have to do is come to Cars Land in the mornings and go back to Disneyland. And I ordered it. And what did I get? It looked like a used dish sponge. And it was okay. The original one looked like a brick. Like it was the same dimensions as a brick. It was really tall and it was really fluffy and long, and it was covered in caramel. This one was like very thin and flat and just a little sliver, just like someone was like, we need one more French toast. It's like, I got nothing. I got a sponge. Give me the sponge. So that's what it was. And it was so dense. Oh man, I almost chipped a tooth or something. It was just wow. So yeah, never again.
Oh my
I will say though, when I did the reservation system for Galaxy's Edge, we stayed at the Grand Cali, and they have like a complimentary breakfast thing on the 6th floor called the Veranda. I don't know if you guys have seen it or heard of it, but they have a top-notch breakfast there. It's like a buffet style thing, and I was actually pretty impressed by that one. That was actually one of the better food places I've been to at Disneyland. But yeah, other than that though, the in-park stuff is real hit and miss.
Alex, don't go to the buffet at the Grand Californian, please.
I know. I'm just gonna ruin it for all of you. It's gonna be gone.
Oh my gosh, that's actually really hilarious. Anyways, there have been even more budget cuts in the park that's going to be taking effect this week, including, which we were just talking about, breakfast service at the Riverbell Terrace ends July 20th. Not sure if this is permanent or if it's just going to be through the summer. Alex is, oh my gosh, he's like flabbergasted right
I was going to make a reservation for this week to do that. Oh my God.
Well, I mean, you still have some time,
Seriously?
Alex. You still have just a little bit of time before they completely get rid of it forever.
Bob Chapek is watching you, Alex. Everything that you like, he's like, I'm gonna get it.
I mean,
Oh my gosh. Who has that kind of luck? You tell me who has that kind of luck.
I mean, that honestly, this is one of the fun. I'm sorry, Alex. I really am, but it's really funny to think about. Like, you make a vlog, and then the next week the breakfast is gone. But anyways, that's just like really hilarious. But
That is.
Other very extreme, in my opinion. This is one of the most interesting parts of these budget cuts, in my opinion. Disneyland will be closing the monorail daily from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. starting on July 21st. Now, Disney claims that these reduced hours are heat-related. But I mean, in the context of what we were just talking about, removing breakfast items, even I feel like removing the sporks at Galaxy's Edge also might have some factor to play into these budget cuts. I don't necessarily believe that the reduced hours are heat related. I mean, you can just open the windows and you will probably be fine, right? But that is one of the more interesting, I feel like, points that should be brought up when we're talking about these budget cuts that are coming to the park. And yeah, someone said in the comments, "Oh my gosh, it's Eisner all over again." Whatever, Paul Pressler. But Alex, I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on the fact that the monorail will be closed daily from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. throughout the summer.
Well, maybe we should hear from Orange Grove first. I feel like I've been talking a lot.
Okay.
Well, did you do a vlog on the monorail before this news, Alex?
I did a history video on it.
Oh my. Problem solved.
All kidding aside, though, but I agree with you, Matt, completely that it's not. I mean, it's silly. I mean, heat related. I don't know. I mean, I know they've closed the monorail in the past for that, but it's been like a day here, a day there. I don't think they've ever done like huge blocks like this.
Yeah.
So I think that's the going excuse, but I think you're right. I think it's to save on labor, whatever, and it's an expense thing, definitely. Sadly,
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because I was doing a live stream yesterday and people were asking about like the closure and do I think it's heat related or do I think it's budget related? And I actually didn't know this. Like, I thought they were referencing the fact that, I don't know, they went yesterday and it was closed in the middle of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Disney is known for doing that. They close the monorail in the middle of the day because of the heat. But they've never scheduled heat closures.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of that before. They've never scheduled a heat closure.
Yeah.
And the hours that it's closed makes some sense. Like 11 to 6 p.m. That is kind of where the hot hours begin and end.
Yeah.
But there is something weird about that. If you like think about 11 to 6, that's like a 7-hour shift. And then if you add on like a 30-minute break and then maybe extra minutes to like get started and ended with your shift, it's like that's technically an 8-hour shift.
Yeah.
And it's like that seems like they almost cut a whole shift out of the operation of the ride. So I think there's some sensibility to it. I mean, the Mark 7 monorails, they were originally built with really horrible air conditioning. And then they stopped doing that in 2009 because they just couldn't keep fixing them. They were just breaking down daily. So ever since then, it's just been an air pump, pumping air from outside inside. And even with the windows open, it's still never enough. It's still very hot in the monorail cars. So I can see why they would do it. But for 8 hours, like 11 a.m., okay, 11 a.m. to maybe 4 p.m., I could see it. But down to 6 p.m., it's like, I don't know. It sounds like a budget issue.
It does. And it's weird, like you mentioned, that it's scheduled. And how come? I mean, it's not like this is unusual weather for California. It's hot here all the time. So how come they didn't do this? As far as I can remember, they didn't do this last summer, and it was hot last summer. So why is this summer special in terms of the heat? It hasn't been exceptionally hot or more than it usually is in mid-July in California. It just seems very suspect to me. It feels like a lot of like, I don't know, like plausible deniability. You know, they're trying to pretend like, oh yeah, it's for the heat. It's for the heat. See, 11 to 6. It's the hot hours. But in reality, it's really just, you know what? They're just being cheap. They just want to save a buck. You know, I think it's sad. It really is sad.
I would not be surprised if we started seeing them like unscrew half the light bulbs in the park. Like, I kid you not, there was a time when they did that. Like back in 2009, we were still having our, we had that horrible, you know, recession. And I was talking to a maintenance guy who was like unscrewing light bulbs in places. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, we have a very specific list of where to unscrew light bulbs, he says, to save on electricity. And I'm like, really? And he goes, yeah, it can't be anywhere where the light is needed for safety. He goes, but in places where we don't need the light, where it's just purely aesthetic, he's like, we're pretty much unscrewing most of those. And I'm just like, wow. So yeah, that was a really weird time. Like just to see like just little lanterns on top of the Jungle Cruise queue. They were unscrewing all those light bulbs and stuff like that. Just like weird random stuff. Sorry, that was random, but yeah.
That is really, that's interesting. Unscrewing light bulbs. I've never heard of that before, but anyways, on this completely separate topic, Alex, I think I have the same shirt as you, except mine is white.
Oh man, now I have to burn this one. Just kidding.
Yeah, completely off topic, but as far as I know, as far as what I've seen, these are the only budget cuts that have taken place as of yet. I'm sure within the next week and a half, maybe we'll be seeing even more that are going to be announced. Gosh, it is very interesting that they are closing the monorail from 11 to 6. Like they're trying to disguise it as they're trying to disguise the closure as, oh my, yeah, they're closing.
They'll
it for
probably
heat, but...
close the submarines too, because those are really expensive to operate. So I wouldn't doubt if, like, I don't know, sometime this week they're like, oh, by the way, the submarine voyage is undergoing a refurbishment. You know, like, you know, like, and plus those things also get really hot in summer too, because there's no air conditioning in those either. It's just air that they pump through the system. Not well enough.
The real tell here will be when we have that fluke day that it's raining or chilly out and the monorail is still closed. Then we know that it was all just, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, you see them rolling. You see them rolling out these giant heaters, and they're turning them on. They're like,
"See, guys, it's hot. We told you." But I guess the real question is, what can we make from all of this? Because obviously this is due to the fact that the parks are not nearly as busy as Disney expected them to be, like I said during the intro to this segment. It's just, I don't know, it's just, like I said, it's the exact opposite of what we expected to happen once Galaxy's Edge opens. I mean, we expected, like Alex was saying, we've been hyping this land up for the past 5 years, telling people how crowded the parks will be. I even remember specifically telling my family, if we ended up taking a vacation to Disneyland this year, do not go during this time of the year because it's going to be packed because of Galaxy's Edge. And lo and behold, now would have been a great time to go because it's so empty. But yeah, it's just really interesting to see the quote-unquote fallout of Galaxy's Edge. And I'm sure I'm trying to picture in my head if Disney will take, or I guess what kind of lessons Disney will take from the opening of Galaxy's Edge when they do end up opening a new land in the park in California, a new land in a California Adventure. I'm sure they're going to try, and I'm trying to like think of ways they can try and scale down the sort of hype, the announcement of the land. I mean, I think we were even talking a couple weeks ago about how Disney might end up creating even smaller lands, scaling back, creating even more budget cuts when making a new land. Like, just using Marvel Land as an example. If Disney were probably barely planning Marvel Land now, once Galaxy's Edge is already opened and they see how the crowds were affected in the park, I'm sure they'd be taking different measures in designing the land, maybe cutting back on a few things in the land. That's just it's really interesting to see like I said, the fallout of what's been going on these past couple weeks.
That's an excellent point, Matt. And that's something that I worry about too. When you have someone like an executive like Bob Chapek, who his first instinct is to go cheap, right? Mm-hmm. I'm really fearful that this is going to be his justification to like Bob Iger and say, hey, Bob, look, we did the big immersive $1 billion land. Yeah. It didn't work. It didn't bring in the crowds. Mm-hmm. Look how much more of a bump we got with Mission Breakout and Pixar Pier.
Yeah.
Let's go that route. We got the bigger bump with those things than we did with the expensive land. And that's the wrong takeaway. And that's definitely the wrong lesson to learn. But when you're dealing with an executive that wants to be cheap, I'm just scared he's going to utilize this to his benefit and try to sell it like that. And then going forward, we're going to get like half effort lands because they think that the big budget stuff people don't care about. It just kind of worries me a little bit.
Well, I was going to wait for another episode to mention this, but there is something that I find very worrisome. So in talking about how the financial flop of Galaxy's Edge is on opening season and how this may affect the way the company builds new rides and lands, there is a type of experiment that is underway right now, and it's in the form of the Spider-Man attraction coming to DCA. And the experiment is to build a ride that can be rethemed in a very short period of time. Basically a risk-free facility that is just like, if it flops, it's like a month later they have a whole new ride. And and so they did something. They got the idea for this by looking at the Midway Mania ride at DCA. That one was built the way it was because it was supposed to be a Midway game, so all it needed was screens. But then they looked at its design and they were like, if it had a few props in there, a few things that were show elements, it could pass as a building that we could retheme very quickly. And so they're redesigning the Tough to Be a Bug Theater to be this Spider-Man ride. But the interesting thing about it is that if my insider is correct, I think he was saying there's going to be these large like access doors to the building that will let them literally just roll the props out of the building and stuff like that. So it's a scary thought for me to think like, what if Disney rides become this thing that can be packed up and shipped away in a matter of days. And now the insider that told me this was actually really optimistic about this kind of thing. I don't agree. Like he thought it was a great idea. He said, how great is it that, we can have a whole different ride if there's something that we don't like about it, like instead of just abandoning the building. But the problem with that is, how cheap is too cheap? Like, are the sets going to look like they spent no time on it at all? Or is it going to look like, like something really elaborate? The former of which I think is more likely.
And you know what that reminds me of, Alex? I agree with you. I'm on your side with this. I think that this is a dangerous, slippery slope they're going down if that's what they're planning on doing. It reminds me of the theater, Sunset Theater in California Adventure, the dark ride equivalent of that, where it's just constantly being switched out with different sneak peeks and different things. And I fear that this concept that you're talking about is going to be basically the dark ride version of that, where we get for 6 months, it'll be Spider-Man. And then it'll be for 6 more months, it'll be Doctor Strange, because Doctor Strange 2 is out. And then it'll be whatever other Marvel hero or whatever other character is hot at the moment. Yeah, it sounds really, really cheap, really lazy. It sounds like just basically like a revolving door of overlays. And I really hope that does not happen. Really hope.
Well, that's sort of the idea that I was thinking of when they initially announced, when I initially went on Mission Breakout, because I was thinking, if you can just reskin this horror attraction to be this upbeat, fun adventure attraction with the Guardians of the Galaxy, then you can do almost anything with that building. And even they've shown that they can do that with the Halloween event that they do, the Monsters After Dark. They replace, because, if you guys don't know, the attraction has these screens where it showcases all of the, all the events that are happening. You're still dropping up and down, but you pause at these screens. They just swap out the scenes on the screens for the different overlay that they're doing for the Monsters After Dark overlay. And that was the sort of same idea that I was getting from that. If they can do that with that attraction, then they can, maybe in 6 months replace it with a different, not even Guardians of the Galaxy themed attraction. But this is like what Alex was talking about, is like on a whole different scale. And I can see how that would be scary, how you can infer it to be, oh, this is really cheap of them to do. I agree with that. But I can also, I'm trying to look on the bright side. I do have a soft spot for Marvel, so I guess a lot of what I'm saying will come from that part inside of me, because I do, I do enjoy these Marvel films that they've been putting out, and I'm excited for Marvel Land to open. But it's almost in my mind, I'd be down with them swapping out, like you said, swapping out Spider-Man for maybe Doctor Strange when Doctor Strange 2 comes out. But then again, I guess it'd still be the same ride with the whatever shooting elements that you're going to have. So, that's be cheap out in that way as well. I don't know. I'm just trying to look at it from both perspectives, but I do agree with you guys. That is a very scary thing to think about, swapping out attractions like that almost on the fly with what is currently, maybe what's popular with the movies these days.
Well, and also to play devil's advocate, like to stay on the optimistic side as well. A lot of things sometimes on paper sound like bad ideas. This sounds like a bad idea, but in execution, sometimes they actually turn out better. For example, like if 10 or 15 years ago, I would have told you, you know what, we're going to take Christmas lights and put them all over Small World. You would have been like, oh my gosh, that sounds so tacky. Why would they do that? Yeah. But they did it, and it turned out to be gorgeous. And it's one of the best things Disneyland has done in forever, with Small World Holiday. So it could be a situation like that where maybe on paper it sounds like a terrible idea, but maybe upon execution it actually turns out pretty okay or really great. You never know. So you never know until they actually do it. It's hard to say.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm excited for Marvel Land to open. We should probably dedicate. I feel like, Alex, that topic does warrant its own discussion in a separate topic for another show. I'll keep that in the back of my mind for future episodes that we do. But yeah, I guess that sort of wraps up that discussion, unless you guys have any closing thoughts on all these budget cuts that have been happening at Disneyland.
No.
Alrighty. Well, I think this was a very successful episode. A lot of great discussions. Thank you, Mr. Orange Grove, for joining us today. Had a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. My pleasure.
And we're trying to mix it up with all the guests that we're having. So next week maybe we'll have some other person on the show as well. I don't know. We'll be on the lookout. I don't know. But yeah, had a lot of fun today. This was a really great episode. I really do feel like it. So thank you to everybody listening for tuning into this episode. Thank you to everybody who commented in the chat live with us. I guess, okay, one last closing thought that I have. Carrie said this in the chat. Why haven't they unblocked the annual passes then if the crowds are so low. I feel like that would maybe play a part in this. If Disney did end up unblocking the annual pass holders, maybe there'd be more people in the park to spend more money. That is a sort of interesting tidbit to throw out there. Keep that in your mind, the back of your mind. But anyways, yeah, really great episode today. I was really excited that the waiting room actually worked out as intended. So we're going to be going through with the waiting room, hopefully, these next few episodes. And like I said, if you would like to be featured on any episode of Matterhorn Mondays, join our Discord server. Link is in the description down below. And right before the stream starts, you can just hop in a little click, hop in the waiting room, and Alex and I will pick at random who ends up coming on the show to give their thoughts. You might not be on one week, but if you go back the next week, you might get picked. We want to make it random. We don't want to play any favoritism when it comes to choosing people. And yeah, let's see. I think that's going to wrap up this week's episode. I hope you guys like the new microphone. I think it sounded really nice. Hopefully you guys agree as well. Thank you again, Mr. Orange Grove, and thank you, Mr. Alex, for joining us on the stream. Link to both of their channels will be down in the description below, as they always are. And yeah, go subscribe to OrangeGrove55. He makes really great videos. He put out a video a few days ago about if Galaxy's Edge was a failure or not. Really great episode. So go ahead and check that on out. Link will be in the description. And like I said at the beginning, links to all the articles that we refer to in this episode will be in the description as well. And yeah, I feel like that's going to wrap up this week's episode of Matterhorn Mondays. Thank you all for coming out. And as always, have a great big beautiful tomorrow.